You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome back to a bonus episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. We've got a special guest today joining me. Jordan, thanks for coming over all the way from Leicester.
No problem, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, big game this week on Wednesday, the first leg of the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. If you'd have said at the start of the season we'd be in the semi-final of the Cup, I probably would have said, I can't see it, but here we are. Generally, just on paper, first of all, when you look at that tie, Aston Villa against Leicester over 2 legs, how do you feel about that?
Well, fairly positive from a Leicester point of view. I think it's the when the draw was made, it was the tie that lots of Leicester fans would have picked out.
Yeah. Every team in the draw would have picked Villa, wouldn't they?
Yeah, possibly, yes. I think particularly because the draw was just after the game at Villa Park where Leicester won fairly comfortably.
Yeah.
So yes, I think there was the general feeling was that Leicester had got the best draw, and there's a real optimism that they could get to the a cup final at Wembley. It's the first time Leicester have been in the semi-finals of any competition for 20 years.
Mad.
So yeah, which so it's a really big deal that they've made it this far. In that time they've been they've been knocked out by like Wickham in the FA Cup quarter-final.
We've got some stories of being knocked out by some terrible teams.
They've been knocked out by Atletico Madrid in the Champions League quarter-final. So it's a real wide range of teams.
Yeah.
And they finally managed to do it. So it's a huge game for Leicester, and I think they'll be feeling fairly positive going into it.
Before we get too far into this, if you can just explain who you are.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
It's because we know each other, but for the audience that don't know.
Yes, so I'm Jordan Blackwell. I am the Leicester Mercury and Leicestershire Live's Leicester City correspondent, sort of following the club home and away, keeping on top of things. And it's a very enjoyable job to do at the moment because you get to see them win most weeks. So.
I don't know whether we were allowed to even talk about this or not, but are you a Leicester fan?
I am, yes. Okay. Yeah. Before I got the job, I was a season ticket holder. So
nice, living the dream.
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to admit that I'm a Leicester fan. So, but yes, yeah. So it's been really good. The fact that it's sort of coincided with maybe even the best sort of 5-year period in the club's history is particularly exciting.
Yeah, nice. So going back to the game at Villa Park earlier this season, we did a podcast after it, and obviously we're not silly enough to sit there and go, oh well, how annoying to be beaten by Leicester, second in the league or wherever you were. But I felt that day in particular, as much as Leicester were good, we were poor that day, and we kind of made you look even better than you were, kind of thing. That we didn't really show much fight, and we weren't particularly great. How did you assess that game from a Leicester perspective, and what did you think of Villa?
I wouldn't say that. I think I wouldn't say that. I thought Villa did particularly badly. I didn't think defensively they were that organised, which I think makes a team look worse. But I mean, the first 10 minutes, I felt like Leicester were having real trouble with Villa, particularly because Leicester changed their formation. They went to this diamond midfield. They didn't quite have the width, and I think they were kind of overloaded, particularly on Leicester's right-hand side, so Villa's left, I think, with Matt Targett running down the wing.
Yeah.
There was a few times where he was able to... He had loads of space to get crosses in. I think he played one low ball that El Ghazi hit the bar.
Yes.
And if that had gone in, it might have been a different game. But I think after that first 10 minutes, Leicester kind of worked it out, and I think from there they really dominated. And I think it was Villa seemed to lack organisation at the back. Obviously, it didn't help that Mings got injured, but it seems like Leicester created a lot of chances that game. I wouldn't say Villa played badly. I thought going forward they looked pretty good, but I think Leicester were clearly the more well-rounded team and the more organised team.
Yeah, the tactical switch to playing more narrow against us almost kind of bamboozled us a little bit to go, I almost don't know what to do now. Like everything we kind of would usually do by playing wide, we can't do that anymore. We seem a little bit sort of, now what?
Yeah, but I think it was a case of Rodgers actually realising that how good Villa are. I think that in the sense that he knew that the players in the middle, particularly with although Grealish, I think his official position was left wing.
Yeah.
He cuts in all the time, and then you've also got McGinn in there and Douglas Luiz. And I think Rodgers was very keen because of the tons of players. I mean, Rodgers in the lead up to the game, Rodgers said that he tried to sign McGinn when he was Celtic manager. Said he came round to his house and everything, but Villa managed to convince him.
Didn't make him a nice cup of tea or something. And
yeah, he did. Yeah, he said that. Yeah, he said I had a nice long chat with him, but couldn't convince him, and he ended up going to Villa a couple of weeks later. Yes, I think he realised that's maybe where Villa were best.
Yeah,
and so that's why he's kind of packed that midfield with Ndidi, Tielemans, Pratt, and Maddison. And all four of those are very talented players in their own right, but they've been playing very well together. So it did work, and they managed to kind of restrict that threat from the middle, so that Villa's only real route was down the wings.
Yeah.
I said that they had that chance at the start, but beyond that, Leicester kind of worked it out, and they managed to sort of stop Villa creating too many opportunities.
Funny enough, the last time we played Leicester, we did our podcast and we didn't even mention the whole Grealish versus Maddison thing. We kind of got to the end of it, it's like, didn't even mention that, like the thing that everyone's talking about. So we did like a special episode with the guys up from they're based at the Liverpool Echo, and they do like the stats and stuff for the company as a whole, and they recorded a podcast for us about Grealish and Maddison from a stats perspective,
right? Okay.
Which is still relevant now. It's on our iTunes feed somewhere. I'll put a link in the YouTube video if you're watching. What do you think about those two players? It's obviously maybe some biases. You're a Leicester fan, I'm a Villa fan. Is Maddison the better player to you? Can you separate the two? Are they different players?
I think they've become different. Well, I think they're a little bit similar because Leicester were looked at both. When Leicester signed Maddison, they looked at both, but it turned out that I think the biggest point was that Maddison was the cheaper player. I think they managed to get Maddison for just over 20 million. I think Grealish would have cost a lot more than that. So I think they're obviously both players that the club like. I think in terms of the comparison between them, I don't really like to compare them because I think they're both very good players, and it feels like when you're comparing them, you're saying that one of them is rubbish, whereas it's clearly not the case. I think Maddison's game has changed slightly this season, so it's difficult to compare them now.
Yeah.
Because he has to do a lot more defensive work. Because last season he was an out-and-out number 10, didn't really have any defensive duties. His main job was to create and score goals. This season, he's playing as what Rodgers calls a number 8, which is kind of means you're more of an all-round box-to-box midfielder. And actually, Maddison's you wouldn't think Maddison's the sort of player, because he's flamboyant in you wouldn't assume he's the sort of player that could get stuck in, but actually he's done a really good job of that. But I think that's probably then if you were to compare the stats, maybe you wouldn't see that Maddison has done as well in an attacking sense because he's got more defensive duties.
Yeah.
In terms of goals, I know he's already eclipsed his total from last season. But
is that Maddison?
Yeah,
because Jack has done the same.
Grealish has done that as well. Particularly for Grealish to eclipse last season when he was in the Championship last season is very, very good. But I think Grealish has got a few more assists than Maddison has this season, that's the area that Maddison's not quite been quite as good. I think maybe because there's not an onus on him to do all the creative work now.
Yeah.
Because Tielemans is in the team as well, and the wide players are expected to create more. So Maddison's only real kind of, last season he had the most key passes in as in terms of chances created in the league. He won't be that this season just because his role has changed.
Yeah.
But yes, they're both clearly very good players, but I would always choose Maddison over Grealish.
It's funny, isn't it? Because when you say some of those things there about being a number 8, being a bit more box to box, having to do a bit more defensive duties, I'm thinking that sounds like Jack Grealish.
Oh, really? Right.
He's had to do a bit more of that, and he does it better than you would expect. He isn't playing number 10, and for the last 7 or 8 games, he's played out starting on the left and coming inside. He's moved back into midfield, which I prefer him in that role. I guess the difference is, and I suppose this is asking you to kind of look into a crystal ball a little bit. Maddison is playing in a team that is second in the league, and there's a lot of quality players in there. Jack Grealish is head and shoulders above the rest of the Villa squad, and on a stats perspective is better than Maddison. So would it kind of work in the sense that if Maddison was in a weaker team, would he shine as much, or would he kind of stand out more because the onus is on him? Whereas Jack Grealish is doing well in a poorer team, so Jack Grealish goes and plays for Leicester or Liverpool or whoever, and it is even better. Like it's
I agree with that point. I think yes, I think it's a case that Maddison wouldn't look as good in a poorer team. He needs the ball to work with. I think he's one area that he's very good is the way he manoeuvres space for himself.
Yeah.
In terms of the body feints and things like that, I think that's where he's very, very good. But I think if he was playing in a weaker team, maybe you wouldn't see him because I think in a weaker team you generally have less of the ball.
That's the thing for Jack, because he's the star man. Even though we're a weaker team, he gets the ball often because it's just give it to Jack and let him do his thing.
Yeah, but maybe that would be the case if Maddison was playing in certainly because that was the case last season.
I'm not saying for the Villa fans watching that our team is poor besides Jack. He's just so much better than everyone else that it just kind of feel like just give it to him and he'll do something out of nothing and we'll rely on that a little bit. Maybe that
was the case of Leicester last season, but I think because the team as a whole is much better this season, maybe it's not a case of we need to get the ball to Maddison. It doesn't really matter who it goes to. It doesn't matter if it goes to Tielemans or Perez on the right, Barnes on the left, or whoever's playing out wide. Just one of those four has eventually got to get it to Vardy. Whereas last season it was only Maddison that could get it to Vardy.
Yeah.
So yes, but I agree with your point there that I think although Grealish's numbers are very impressive, even just in general, they are particularly impressive given he's playing for a team towards the bottom of the league.
Yeah, we're both not foolish enough to sit here and think, Grealish is better, so Maddison is poor, and vice versa. For me, both should be in the England squad.
Yeah,
Jack, in my biased opinion, I think he's good enough to start for England, let alone just being and around the squad. Don't know whether you can get away with a team with Maddison and Grealish playing together.
No.
But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that is the option.
They've certainly got. They're the sort of technical players that you would want in an England team. I think you occasionally feels like the kind of the runners and the workhorses are picked over the real special players. But I think in terms of excitement and bringing excitement to the national team, Maddison and Grealish are the sorts of players that you want in the side.
Yeah, because I look at Grealish as without doubt the best player that I've seen. I'm only 24, so it's been a lot of poor years of watching Villa, so it's not hard, but without doubt he's such a unique talent, Jack, that you kind of look at that from an England perspective and think, how could that not be enough of a pull to get him in the squad? There was a clip from Southgate earlier this season talking about he's playing out on the left and you've got Sancho and Sterling. It's like, well, yeah, he's not better than players like that, but he's not really a left winger. He's a midfielder playing out wide in a Villa team because that's the system we're playing at the moment. He's such like an individual, unique talent that there's just something about him that's attractive to watch, the way he kind of floats around the ball and just holds the ball long enough to get the pass to somebody, and the way the amount of times you see him kind of just drop the shoulder to the right and then curl the ball top bins against Man United, the one against Burnley as well. You just know he's going to do it, but people can't stop it because he's just so kind of elegant on the ball. And I've not seen enough of Maddison to say that he's not that. But from a biased perspective, I look at Jack as being... I can't not say that Jack isn't a better player.
Yeah.
Because I just think he's so much better than most players of that position. The fact that he plays for Villa and we're struggling with relegation, that's mad to me that he's not better than our level already.
Yeah.
But between the two, the whole kind of comparison of you see things on Twitter, a poll here and there, like this, retweet that. So, what's the point? They're both good players.
Yeah,
Can we just leave
it does
it at
feel
that?
like that. Yeah. Do you think it's a case that they would Villa's survival is necessary to keep in Grealish?
100%. If we go down, he's gone.
Right.
And you can't begrudge him of that any longer. I don't think as a Villa fan. I thought he'd go the year we went down.
Yeah.
The year that we didn't go up, I thought, okay, well, he's done a year in the Championship, he'll go now. The fact that we got to hold on to him for as long as we did, managed to get promoted, and he's still there, he's now the captain.
Yeah.
It's such like a nice story to be able to follow, that he's one of us, he's kind of living our dream.
Yeah.
If we go down, he definitely leaves, and I wouldn't complain that Villa would need the money as well. And I don't know, what would you rate him for? What's his value?
I think obviously because there's a lot of transfer rumours around James Maddison at the minute, and kind of thinking about his price tag, I think Grealish would be in a similar amount. But I think you're looking at, I would say you're looking at 50 plus. I would say at least maybe 60 plus
for his left foot.
I think, that's the thing. You kind of have to base these numbers on previous transfers, and that Leicester got £80 million for Harry Maguire means they kind of, I think to say, it's not going to happen. But say someone like Maddison did leave, the fee would be compared to the Maguire fee, and I think they'd think, oh, okay, well, if Maguire's gone for 80 million, we want at least 80 million for Maddison, as good a player. So yes, I think Villa would be in for a windfall if they did sell Grealish, because there would be a lot of teams interested, and they would be able to get a big fee. But of course, I'm sure they would rather stay up and keep him.
Exactly. That's the thing. There's a difference between cash value of what this player is actually worth, which is probably, I don't know, somebody would probably realistically pay 60, 70 million for him. To Villa, he's worth 100 million plus.
Yeah.
Because he is key to us staying up, and we get 100 million plus for staying in the league. He's that valuable to us as a player.
And also,
would he go for 100 million? No. Because somebody wouldn't offer that, and we'd accept less, I think. But to Aston Villa, he's irreplaceable, and we would need that kind of money to even consider replacing him.
Yeah, and also it's not something that's ever considered in a value in a transfer fee, but there's the personal connection as well, and the fact that he is he's a Villa lad, if you like. He's a local player, so it kind of, those things never factored into transfer fees, but in terms of the feeling towards him, that probably does add to fans. It adds another 10 or so million onto it.
Well, we'll move away from touting our best players away to sales, because I definitely don't want that. Definitely don't want that day to come. Back to Wednesday, or tomorrow as this comes out. Both teams will play a full strength 11. We were kind of talking before the camera started rolling that you can't use an excuse of a cup run is a distraction. Like the two games are scheduled in now. There's one more. Like you might as well absolutely go for it now. It's not like the FA Cup where you look at it and go, we've got 6 rounds before we get to the final or whatever. Like, we're here now. 2-legged tie. Us being home second, I count that as some kind of advantage if we're still in the first leg. Obviously, if we lose the first leg 5-0, then there's no point playing the second one. But if we can kind of come away with it with a 1-0 defeat, a draw, if we can nick a win maybe, I'd fancy us saying it in the one-off game at Villa Park. But Leicester are just such a good side, and we're not playing great at the moment that I am slightly concerned. For your guys, you've got to be looking at that as we've got to be making the final here, surely. Yeah,
I think the fact that they're favourites, there will be. I suppose there's a pressure with that, but to be honest, it's something that Leicester have dealt really well with this season. I think Leicester's record against teams outside the top 7 this season, they've won every single one apart from one where they drew to Norwich. But that's a really good record for when you are favourites in games. So there's I think they've dealt with that tag pretty well this season. Yes, they will definitely be playing a full strength team. I think it's I think there's a real hunger for silverware at the club. I think a lot, if you haven't spoken to a lot of the players, they said that once they won that, and I know that it's not quite the same team as the title winning team from 4 years ago, but they say having that experience of winning silverware makes you want even more, which you would think, well, maybe you would be satisfied once you've won one thing, particularly winning the Premier League when they were absolutely not expected to. But no, actually they say they want to win even more. And I know it's the League Cup is probably the lesser of the 3 domestic trophies, but it's still a trophy. It's still a medal. It's still an extra something on your Wikipedia page. It's
anyone can update those.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, so I think it's a real big deal for both the club, the fans, and the players.
Obviously, I would ask you to kind of look at the Villa side and say who would you be concerned about. But there's basically one answer, and that's obviously Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
From the other perspective, is there kind of a standout player, or maybe a underrated is probably the better word, player from Leicester that we should be concerned about? It's obviously a Vardy or a Tielemans are players that you look at and go, yes, obvious qualities. There's somebody that's kind of is maybe a bit of an underdog that we need to be wary of.
Yeah, it's difficult to say from my point of view because I feel like I've been really bigging up all of the players this season. I think indeed he goes unnoticed a little bit, but that's mainly because of the role he does, in terms of mopping up and making tackles and things like that. But he really ensures that Leicester dominate in the midfield. But again, he's not that type of player that you would never refer to him as a danger man because he doesn't have that kind of threat.
Yeah.
But I think
but a danger from stopping us, if he's stuck on Grealish for the game, that nullifies Aston Villa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's looking from the other point of view. I think we often kind of, even in my lifetime, the role of the fullback has changed. And I think they're now, when I played Sunday League and I was a right back, it was very much, I was only a defender.
Yeah.
Occasionally you overlap your winger, but not really that often. But nowadays there are essentially attacking players. And I think Leicester do have very good ones. And I know Liverpool's fullbacks are talked about often as there's kind of the modern examples of how fullback should play, but I think Leicester's are very good, and I think Ricardo Pereira is extremely good, and even though he is a right back, he is one of Leicester's most creative players and one of their most talented players. And I think sometimes that's because the players playing further forward, like Vardy, Maddison and Tielemans, take the limelight a little bit. He sometimes doesn't get quite as much credit as he deserves, but he is. He's Leicester's reigning player of the season, and he could well win it again this year. He's been playing that consistently well. I would say he's probably one to watch out for.
The difficulty of that as well is that our left side is probably the weak point. Matt Targett was playing there averagely. I would say traditionally you would say he's more of an attacking wing back rather than a full back. Going forward, I don't think he's amazing. He's better than Neil Taylor, who's the alternative. Defensively, he's looked very shaky. He's injured now. Right. I think he's out Wednesday. I've not seen anything, but he didn't play against Burnley. And Neil Taylor had to play. Burnley was the first time we switched to a three at the back when you're playing wing backs, and Neil Taylor is notorious for not being great going forward either. Yeah. So if we persist with the three at the back, which I think we will, we dropped it against Fulham in the Cup. Because I think we were saving our centre backs essentially. Tyrone Mings didn't play, Grealish wasn't even in the squad, etc. Smith kind of said that we've got big games in January and this isn't really a priority. As kind of sad as that is for the FA Cup, we've got a cup semi-final and 3 league games I think left in January still. So big games there that take priority. If we persist with that three at the back and Neil Taylor is having to play wing back against a very good full back on the other side for Leicester, that's a bit of a concern.
And actually, I think if Leicester think that Villa are going to play with three at the back, Leicester might copy them.
Do you think?
Leicester did that at Newcastle on New Year's Day, which they'd not played it all season. They played Newcastle, who played with 3 centre backs and the wing backs.
Wow. Okay.
And Leicester changed their formation to match them man for man. And it worked. They won 3-0. They were dominant. They might do that. Although Leicester's only problem now is that, with 2 centre-backs being injured in the FA Cup game on Saturday, they're actually down to 2 out-and-out centre-backs, albeit Christian Fuchs can play on the left side of a 3-man defence. But if then one of those 3 was to get injured, they wouldn't have anybody to play that to continue that.
That's interesting.
That would be an interesting one. Because I think if Leicester were to match up man for man, I think you would say that they have the quality, and certainly it frees up like Ricardo as right wing back and Chilwell as left wing back. They are the sorts of players that really prosper as wing backs because there's slightly fewer defensive duties for them.
Yeah, it is an interesting one because that Leicester game, when you've switched it to be more compact in the middle, kind of makes you look at this as a more tactical battle between the managers. Whereas if, like you say, if we do go with this three at the back, which I think we will, and I think we should, because we looked better against Burnley than we have for the last 5 or 6 games at least. We looked to have more time on the ball, a bit more control. Admittedly, I thought Burnley were very poor. I think they'll be down there this year. You kind of look at Burnley away, it's like, tough place to go. It's not actually anymore. It's a bit of a season or 2 out of date now. But we looked more comfortable. The only issue with that is that you've got your striker gets an ACL and your goalkeeper gets the same. So the changes are going to be made for Villa to their starting 11. I don't think we're going to sign anybody before Wednesday. If we do, I would assume people are going to be cup tied anyway. So we've got Jonathan Codger, who's likely to play up front, unless we stick a winger up front or something, which I'm not a fan of doing things like that. And you're probably playing 3 at the back for the second time this season against a Leicester side that look comfortable at whatever they do. So I don't want to be too pessimistic about it, because obviously I'm a Villa fan. I want us to go out and win every game, but you can't help look at Leicester away in the cup when there's, as much as us getting to a final would be massive as well for you. It's a big thing, especially for this season. If you kind of finish in the top 4, maybe finish second and win the Carabao Cup, that's a great season.
Yeah,
there's a lot on the line. I kind of just look at it and think, I'm a little bit concerned for Villa here. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to the final.
Yeah, I think maybe if it was a regularity for Leicester that they were in this position, maybe there would be a case where Villa could take advantage of that. But I think because it's been so long that Leicester have been in this position, I think they are going to be totally focused on this.
When the draw came out, I wanted Man United, which probably tells you Man United aren't what they used to be, and that I'm quite scared of Leicester. I want Man United in a 2-legged game. Yeah,
I think that's the thing. I think Leicester have really proven that they are. They're a team to be feared. And particularly, you mentioned the Villa injuries there. Other than a couple of sort of reserve or sort of backup centre backs, Leicester don't really have any, so they will be able to. I know Vardy's missed a few games, but he is expected to be fit for Wednesday. So I think it's Leicester have. Everything is pointing towards a Leicester win.
But football doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe there's a chance we'll smash it.
And I know we were speaking before about the second leg is actually there is a little bit more hope there for Villa because of the way the fixtures have fallen, with Leicester being in the 4th round of the FA Cup and Villa not being. I think it's Leicester will only have like a 2-day break.
Let's check how it lies.
I think Villa have got a full week.
Play midweek on the 21st against Watford, which is a massive game, by the way. You play on the 22nd,
which is
West Ham, the Wednesday. And then the 25th is FA Cup 4th round, which obviously we won't be in. And then the game, the second leg for us to be at home is the 28th, which is the Tuesday. So we play Tuesday, and you play Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there's a day
3
less
games
rest.
in 7 days for Leicester.
3 games in 7 days, which, obviously a lot of that, we're talking 2 weeks away or more now. If you win the first leg 3-0, the second leg's largely irrelevant. I'd struggle to see us turning a big deficit around. But if it's 1-1 or something on Wednesday, and then we're coming back to Villa Park with an advantage, the home advantage, and you've played an extra game to us and had a day's less rest, you might get an injury to Vardy or whatever. We're being very hypothetical because we can only be that so far ahead of time. But the whole dynamic of the tie shifts then. As of today, on 6th of January, I'm looking at it going, there's no way we make it to Wembley. If Wednesday kind of goes our way and then the second leg is favourable as well, all of a sudden you're going, I quite fancy us all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It can all turn around. I think that's, I do think that the 2-legged aspect to it kind of takes away the luck element, I think.
Yeah. In a one-off game, anything could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think you have 180 minutes kind of, normally the better team goes through when it's 180 minutes. But it wasn't that long ago, sorry to bring it up, but it wasn't that long ago that Bradford beat Villa in a 2-legged semi-final. So,
terrible memories.
That should be the game that gives Villa a little bit of hope, I think.
Yeah. So, to kind of wrap it up then, because again, we fall into the trap of being a bit too hypothetical over team selections things, because so much can change. We're recording this on a Monday, so even 2 days before the game, things could change. If you had to put your neck on the line for a score prediction for Wednesday first, what would you say?
For Wednesday, I will say 3-1. I don't think Leicester will keep a clean sheet.
Okay.
I think just because of the way that Villa play, having seen them, a couple of times, but obviously mainly the game out at Villa Park, I felt like they were quite attacking. So I think there'll be enough players there to get at least a goal. But I think Leicester will create plenty, and they'll have all their best sort of attacking talents on the pitch. So I'll say 3-1.
Do you think the tie will be over on Wednesday? Do you think that'll be enough?
Oh, I don't. I think with 2 goals in it, no. I don't think it will be over after the first leg, no.
Okay. I hope it isn't, obviously. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh yeah, I think it was going to be over in the first leg. I don't know. I'd like to think maybe if we kind of things go our way a little bit. I mean, we're in such a, besides Burnley where we look better, we're in a bad run of form. We're not down the bottom for bad luck. If we can nick a draw, I think that's a very successful result. Kind of just one of those. My head tells me we're probably going to lose. My heart says, "Oh, come on, Villa, you might do it. You might do it." I did a podcast before I worked here, and we did have predictions for the start of the year, and I put League Cup win Villa brackets. Why not? Like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Why not?
You're supposed to dream. That's the thing. Exactly. I think even with Leicester in the league at the minute, I don't know how many points Liverpool are clear at the minute. 13, I think, with a game in hand.
Ridiculous.
And it seems it's obviously so unlikely that Leicester would win the league, but you got to let people. You got to let people actually dream and be optimistic about it.
4 months of football left. Yeah, what's the point if you give up now?
Yeah, that's the thing. I know. It's kind of particularly my job to kind of analyse things from a realistic standpoint. But I'm all for fans, having hope, and I think even from a Villa perspective, they've got to go into this game feeling positive. Even the fact that they've made it to a semi-final, in the final 4. Yeah. On a pure probability basis, there's a 25% chance that they'll win it.
Yeah, I like it. I like this. This sounds better already. It's one of those, isn't it? If Wednesday kind of, all it takes is I don't know whether VAR is in use, by the way. But
I think it is.
It only takes something like that going our way that you get a horrible goal chalked off for a toenail being offside, and we scrap a goal off somebody's backside, and we're 1-0 up, and everything's totally. That's what makes football so good, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
The unpredictability of it. But yeah, it's one of those. I struggle to kind of look ahead and think, oh yeah, I can book my trip to Wembley, but who knows? Dream the dream. Yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps up our little Leicester Villa special. We'll probably have another chat before the second leg, depending on how the tie goes.
Yeah, the moods might be quite different.
if we're 4-0 down at half time on Wednesday, we won't be doing another video. So thank you to anyone that's watched this on YouTube or listened on Spotify, Acast or iTunes. If you want to leave us a nice little positive review, that would be lovely. Thanks to Jordan for coming over from Leicester for a start. It's a nice bonus for me to not have to leave the office to the East Midlands. So thank you for that. And we'll see who the best team wins on Wednesday night.
Yeah, fingers crossed it's Leicester.
Not for us. Don't forget you want a Villa podcast.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's on. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, up the Villa.